Good.
Good. You got the recording started. Okay.
All right. So, please, Courtney, tell about what you do, what Farsight does, and have you ever had what kind of extraterrestrial contact through remote viewing you have had, and what contacts have you confirmed, and if you had any clues to the secret space programs. So tell us in a nutshell about what you do and how you do it. Thank you.
Sure. Well, I guess I'll pause after I say a sentence or two and you translate. Is that right?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Courtney Brown, and I am the CEO, or the head of the director of the Farsight Institute. And Farsight is two things. We're both a nonprofit research and educational institute, and we are also a for-profit movie business that focuses on the subject of remote viewing, with a special interest in using it to study extraterrestrial life.
Хорошо. Кортни говорит, что его организация называется Farsight. Она не для того, чтобы зарабатывать деньги. Это первая часть для образования, а вторая часть для зарабатывания денег. Он занимается дальновидением, в частности, и в поисках внеземных цивилизаций, внеземной жизни. Please continue.
Okay. And what we do is we have for a number of decades now done research and exploration with the process of remote viewing. Remote viewing is a mental process, and it was developed both in the Soviet Union as well as in the United States. But the version that we use is developed in the United States, and it was developed by the U.S. military intelligence services, and they used it for spying. They use it for being able to use it for operational purposes, for basically psychic spies. They found it to be at least as accurate as a physical spy, because the accuracy of a physical spy is around 60%, because there's a lot of bad information that you get with physical spies. But they found it to be at least as accurate or better than a physical spy. Remember the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? And Colin Powell went in front of the United Nations and talked about that. That was inaccurate information, but that was from physical spies. So let me pause for a second.
Хорошо. Дальновидение было разработано в бывшем Советском Союзе. Это один вариант дальновидения. Другой вариант дальновидения был разработан в Соединенных Штатах. Он использовался в основном для разведывательных, сбора разнообразных разведывательных данных. Еще Кортни говорит, что 60% физической информации, которую собирают шпионы, в основном неправильная. Например, когда Колин Пауэлл говорил об оружии массового уничтожения в Ираке, то это было неправильно. Информация получена от физических шпионов. То есть он хочет сказать, что дальновидение намного точнее.
However, at Farsight, we are civilian, completely civilian, and we use remote viewing for scientific investigation of the phenomenon itself, as well as for exploration. And that is the reason why we have done so many projects using remote viewing that involve extraterrestrials, because of the ability to use it to essentially spy on the extraterrestrials.
Кортни говорит, что он занимается, его институт Farsight занимается дальновидением и он занимается, в частности, внеземными цивилизациями, инопланетянами. И это один из его аспектов, это контакт с инопланетянами. Carry on.
We are the largest, actually, we are the only venue or the only organization, the only anything that has full public projects of remote viewing anywhere on the internet. Meaning, if you do a search for remote viewing, you will not find us. That's because there's currently a shadow ban with Google and YouTube for us. We are the only group they shadow banned. So I guess it's an honor, but you won't find anything about us just if you search for remote viewing. But we are the absolute largest venue. This started in June 2021 when Congress required the US military to report to Congress on the UFO phenomenon. We were never shadow banned before that. Starting that month, that's when the shadow banning started. So what you will get if you do a search on Google for remote viewing is tens of thousands, a few 100,000 websites talking about remote viewing, all of which are useless. There is not a single project dealing with actual remote viewing available on the internet except with Farsight. Let me pause.
Хорошо. Он говорит, что если вы наберете Farsight на Google, вы ничего конкретного не найдете, поскольку его организацию запретили, на YouTube запретил, потому что военные запретили любую информацию, касающуюся наблюдения НЛО и дальновидения, связанное с дальновидением. Еще Farsight – это гражданская организация. Хорошо, carry on.
Okay. So the basic issue with social media now is essentially anything that's really important, it gets shadow banned. So anything that's sensitive and anything that's useless, you can get access to immediately. So we have two websites that we have our information on. One is by the way, if you search for Farsight, the actual word Farsight, you will find us on YouTube. Depending on the day, you may or may not find us on Google, and that's searching for our name. Now, none of this used to happen before. We were always at the top of every search for remote viewing or for Farsight, always, for all the search engines. The only search engine that does not do shadow banning, last I saw, is DuckDuckGo. So we still turn out somewhere in the top few sites for DuckDuckGo. So let me pause for that for a second.
Хорошо, значит, Courtney говорит, что в принципе, если набрать Farsight, Farsight на YouTube.
No. Farsight.
Farsight, если набрать это на...
.org.
На
.org.
На
.org.
.org его организацию можно будет найти на Google и на YouTube. Но, в принципе, вся его организация в связи с информацией, которой он владеет, она была запрещена к показу в Google. Вот. Carry on.
And the one that you do find us is DuckDuckGo.
Его можно найти на страничке duckduck.go.
Yeah, I know, it's DuckDuckGo. That's DuckDuckGo. That's search. Okay. DUCK, like the bird.
Yes. Его можно найти на страничке duck.go.
Yeah, duckduckgo.com.
.go.com.
Yeah, That is a search engine that still shows up at the top. But anyway, this is relatively new for us. We're not concerned about that. Our YouTube channel has about 75,000 subscribers, and we have our own, that's on YouTube, but we have our own website, farsight.org, and we have our streaming service. So our own streaming service that's equivalent to Disney, Hulu, Netflix, HBO, things like that. That's called FarsightPrime.com. FarsightPrime.com. So we are able to continue to do our work very easily. But it's our streaming service where all of our projects are is FarsightPrime.com.
Все проекты его можно найти как похожие на Netflix, HBO, и ссылка farsightprime.com, FarsightPrime.com. Carry on.
Okay. So I'm going to show you some things after that. And so at some point, I'm going to ask you to let me share my screen so that you can see some of the things I'm going to show you.
Хорошо. Он хочет показать вам кое-что, нам кое-что, и он будет сейчас он поделится с нами этой информацией через экран. Go ahead.
Okay. So we are the only venue where you can find major projects. We have over 75 major projects using remote viewing on farsightprime.com, and some of which are available for free on farsight.org and on YouTube. But the basic idea is that our remote viewers are highly trained. We do not use the procedures that were developed by the United States military. We do not use those. We did not find those to be satisfactory. So once we understood what was originally done, we developed procedures that are much more advanced than the US military procedures that we call scientific remote viewing. And our procedures are sufficiently complicated that we have to use pre-printed templates so for people to actually do them. And our remote viewers are trained by us for over a year before they can actually do anything. Let me pause that.
Хорошо. Он говорит, Courtney говорит, что они используют научное дальновидение, и эта программа отличается от военной. И что, чтобы стать дальновидцем, люди должны пройти год обучения у него. И они используют специальные рыбы, которые уже напечатаны для проектов дальновидения. Go ahead.
We are, did you say something?
Какие рыбы?
Templates. Специальные.
Template is a pre-printed form with many things they have to fill out.
Они должны заполнить множество вещей в этой форме. Это формы.
Courtney, a person needs some talents to have a remote vision. It's necessary to have some talents.
Эти люди, do these people are they psychics? Are they trained psychics? The ones.
Okay.
Они extrasense.
They are not natural psychics. We have found that we can train anyone. We have no connection with the government, with the United States government. We're totally independent. However, the people that we have trained are the best remote viewers on the planet Earth, period. However,
говорит,
they
go
were
ahead.
not natural psychics. We have found that natural psychics do not have the capability of being as accurate as trained remote viewers because they rely on their own intuitive natural abilities, and they don't know how to separate the data from the imagination with sufficient accuracy for our purposes. Natural psychics can work, but they're sometimes right, sometimes wrong. We have to have them right all the time. And so we do not work with natural psychics. We work with trained remote viewers who we trained. And add this also to your translation. All of our work at Farsight, all, is done totally blind. The remote viewers are never told anything about the project or the target at all. Natural psychics use information about the target. Someone says, we want you to remote view the moon or something like that. Our remote viewers never do that. They are only told by a text message that goes out to all of our remote viewers that there is a project, mystery is 46. And then they have a deadline. They have to do their work. They do their work solo, totally blind, no information at all. And they send us their information. They later record their final sessions on video, and they are alone in the studio when they do their sessions. They are not told what the target is or anything about the target until after all of their remote viewing for the project, including the video recordings done in a very cinematically interesting way, are finished.
Хорошо, он говорит, что они не используют экстрасенсов, поскольку экстрасенсы не совсем всю информацию передают правильно, а кое-что идет от их и воображения. Вся информация по дальновидению делается вслепую. Люди, которые там работают по дальновидению, не экстрасенсы, их тренируют по специальной программе Farsight, и они работают полностью вслепую, им не дается минимум информации через сообщение СМС, такой-то проект нужно сделать к такому-то времени. Carry on.
We do not keep our methods secret. In fact, we're the opposite of secret. We don't have secrets. So can I share my screen now?
Yes. Courtney говорит, что у него нет никаких секретов, и сейчас он хочет поделиться с какой информацией. Go ahead.
All right. So this you should be seeing now, farsightprime.com.
Yes.
Now, this is our streaming service. And you get a week for free. So for those interested who are seeing it. Okay. So these are all of our projects, and they go on and on and on and on. We have everything that you can possibly do. In addition, we have one video here that's on the second row here, movies, called Reliably Recording Videos of UAP/UFOs. That was a presentation I just did a few weeks ago at Indiana University. And this is a presentation that describes how we take video recordings of UFOs. UFOs, we have found, are everywhere, and they are trying to hide themselves. They are using cloaking technology, and they travel at crazy speeds. So it was not possible for us to record UFOs. I'm going to show you some later on, but until camera equipment became available to us that allowed us to do that. So this recording, reliably recording videos of UAP/UFOs, is something that you would like to see, because it not only shows you some of our video recordings of UFOs, but it also shows you information of how to do it yourself.
Courtney говорит, что они НЛО используют, прячутся, и они записали множество НЛО в нашем пространстве, их очень много. даже те, которые пытались быть спрятанными. И он сейчас немножко попозже покажет это видео. Carry on.
All right, now I'm going to switch our website. This is our other website, farsight.org. So you should be seeing that.
Итак, это его страничка farsight.org. Вот.
Okay, are you seeing that?
Да.
All right. So all of the projects that we have are listed nicely organized in our menu bar on the left. On the
Здесь все их
fourth,
проекты налево. В левом углу, в левой колонке все их проекты, которые делает Farsight Institute. Институт Farsight. Хорошо? Carry on.
all right. On the fourth link down on the menu, fourth link, there is a link called Recording UAP/UFOs. If you click on that, which I will do now, you will get a printed page of all the details that are necessary for recording UFOs. Now, let me add one thing. For those who are interested, UFOs are available in huge numbers. In any 10 to 15 minute video that we record using our own cameras in Atlanta or Washington, D.C., you typically get 50 alien spacecraft right in front of you. So they are not hard to get. If you were to record them over your capital cities, you would find them in great numbers. But they're all using stealth technology, and they are all flying at speeds of approximately 32,000 kilometers per hour, which is why you cannot see them unless you use specialized cameras. And also we use infrared. We use infrared, and we shoot in very fast frame rates. So the details of what we do is on that page.
На этой страничке это ссылка к НЛО, которые находятся инопланетные корабли, которые находятся в пространстве Вашингтона, округ Колумбия и Атланты. Их очень сложно снять на простую камеру, потому что они двигаются со скоростью 32 тысячи километров в секунду. Это очень большая скорость, и это невозможно снять на камеру, хотя, и это можно снять специально инфракрасной камерой или со специальной камерой. You said 32,000 kilometers per hour per second.
Yeah, okay. 32,000 kilometers per hour is their typical speed.
32 тысячи километров в час, я ошибся. Это скорость передвижения инопланетных космических кораблей, которые находятся в пространстве этой планеты.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to our homepage. And if you scroll down, you will see the first video is an update of what we put out every month. The second video is that recording that I did at Indiana University. Let me pause so you can say that too, that first.
Хорошо, это запись всех НЛО, которые были сняты, когда он работал в университете Индианы. Go ahead.
Okay, under that, there's a podcast that I do with my son, dealing with what we do. And under that is a show that we have at Farsight Prime called Identified Flying Objects, where we look at the footage that we take with our own cameras, and they are analyzed by a flight traffic control person, Lincoln Lounsbury, who has worked at some of the busiest airports in the United States, including for very many years, Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has the most highly controlled airspace, highly protected airspace on the planet. And the skies above Washington, D.C. are filled with UFOs, all of which are invisible unless you use specialized camera equipment.
Он работает над этим проектом со своим сыном, а также Линкольном Лаунсбери, который является диспетчером в аэропорту округа Колумбия, в аэропортах округа Вашингтона, округа Колумбия. И он говорит, что там находится огромное количество неопознанных летающих объектов, то есть космических кораблей, и которые можно снимать только со специализированной камерой. И Вашингтон является одной из самых охраняемых областей аэронеба над Вашингтоном очень хорошо охраняется, потому что это столица. Хорошо, carry on, please.
Under that is a presentation I made encouraging universities to invite me to their campuses so that I can explain how to take these video recordings of UFOs. And at the very bottom, the next one is actually called ET News. That's a monthly news show that we put out that describes what extraterrestrials are up to every month. And on the very bottom is a trailer for a project that we have on Farsight Prime dealing with UFOs that were recorded in mass, literally hundreds, over the Pensacola Naval Air Station in Pensacola, Florida, on May 2nd and May 3rd of this year. And literally hundreds were caught on video. I will show you a few of those recordings in a few moments, in a little bit.
Он говорит, что вот то, что вы видите сейчас, это его журнал «Новости инопланетян ET News», а самое последнее – это наблюдение целой флотилии космических кораблей над Пенсаколой, штатом Флорида, которая была заснята 2-3 мая этого года, с которой он поделится чуть-чуть попозже.
So at the very bottom, you will see a link for a book that I wrote on the science of remote viewing, and 2 articles down at the bottom. One's dealing with an experiment that we did where the person who chooses the target for the remote viewers is in the future. So the remote viewers are doing their sessions first, but the target's not even chosen until 3 months into the future. And they were accurate every time. And then the bottom is a link to a remote viewing article that we did that was ultimately at the very last minute, 10 days before it was supposed to be published in a major journal, it was pulled from publication and killed. So that's an interesting article because it talks about a real base on Mars. And I will show you a little bit about that in a moment.
Он говорит, что он написал книгу «Все о дальновидении». Вот вы видите ее сейчас. И он говорит, что он также написал статью. И сейчас он хочет поделиться о дальновидении, о базах на Марсе.
Okay. Now I'm going to click on the bottom link. There's another link there called Base on Mars. And you're going to see the page for our Base on Mars. And I want to give you an idea of the types of things we're talking about. So here is a NASA supplied from NASA JPL Malin Space Science Systems image of the base on Mars. Here is the base on Mars that we did a remote viewing project with. Now, this is... So, Michael, why don't you start with explaining that this is a base on Mars that we did a remote viewing project with.
Это база на Марсе. Вы видите сейчас базу на Марсе, это проект, который занимался дальновидение базы на Марсе. Вот там написано первая цель, вторая цель, цель А1А, цель 1Б, цель 1С.
Yes.
Now, at the top of this page, you can get a link that says download the highest resolution image of the Mars base here. That's the best quality you can get. And if you look at the image, this is a web version, but the highest quality is available. You'll see a dome called Target 1B and a pipeline and a nozzle, and you'll see liquid spewing out of the nozzle, and that's Target 1A. So Michael, why don't you translate that first?
Хорошо, вот ты видишь, что это самое лучшее изображение базы на Марсе в виде в виде в виде
Трубопровода.
трубопровода,
Который
трубопровода,
собирает жидкость.
да, трубопровод вместе с и через этот трубопровод идет какая-то жидкость. Go ahead.
All right. And down at the bottom, you'll see a very large dome called Target 1C.
И внизу вы можете видеть куполообразный объект 1C. 1B – это небольшой куполообразный объект, а 1C – большой куполообразный объект.
Now, this is an underground base that has both humans in it from Earth as well as extraterrestrials working side by side.
Это Target 1B? Is it Target 1B?
All the entire thing, Target 1B and 1C, those are that's an underground base with humans and extraterrestrials working side by side underneath Mars.
Цель 1B и цель 1C – это подземная база, где работают совместно инопланетяне и земляне.
Now, the program Google Earth, which is a mapping program that you can see anywhere in the world, has a Mars option. So if you go to the exact same location on Google Earth and then choose the Mars option and go to the same exact location, this is the image you see. So you can clearly see that it's censored.
Courtney говорит, что если вы наберете на Google Earth и наберете Mars, то вы получите вот такой ретушированное изображение базы на Марсе.
Ясно.
So we have done 2 projects on this particular base, and the article that I wrote that was based on our work was pulled sort of mysteriously at the very last moment, immediately before, like 10 days before it was to be printed. But we have released it ourselves, and that top link at the top of this page gets you to that article itself. Okay, so I'm going to go back now to let me pause while you translate that, Michael.
Courtney говорит, что они написали статью про базы на Марсе, но их не пустили, не дали им написать. Но они все равно выпустили эту статью о базе на Марсе. Go ahead.
All right. So I'm going back now to the home page. So the remote viewing procedures, if you want to know about the types of things we do, if you scroll down on any one of our pages, keep on going till it says instruction on the left-hand side. And there's a section there for SRV free. If you click on that, you will find many printed resources describing the procedures that we do. In addition, on farsightprime.com, we have nearly 30 video lessons for how to do what we do. free.
Этот ссылка SRV, она позволяет людям объясняет, какие процедуры нужно сделать, что нужно сделать, чтобы
Right here.
стать дальновидцем. Да. И они, как можно научиться дальновидению. Go ahead.
So we do not have any secrets about how to do this. We can, the only limitation that we really have is that everything that we do is in English. So if someone was going to use our materials to learn what we do, they'd have to know English or translate.
Courtney говорит, что у них нет никаких секретов, но единственный недостаток в том, что вся информация на английском языке, и для этого человек либо должен знать английский язык, либо чтобы он мог перевести эту информацию.
Now, that's for our remote viewers, and you can see them doing their work live, recorded live on video on farsightprime.com. And it's extremely interesting to watch them. We just did a project on, we call it the disclosure war. And the disclosure war is we focused on 4 people. The highest ranking political person in the United States who is opposed to UFO disclosure, and the highest ranking military person who is opposed to disclosure. And then we focused on the highest ranking political person who is in favor of disclosure, and the highest ranking political person, the highest ranking military person who's in favor of disclosure. So we focused on the leadership that's both for and against having the information about the UFOs revealed to the public. That's our latest project that was just released a few days ago.
Courtney говорит, что их самый последний проект это в информации об НЛО, об внеземном присутствии, которое не будет засекречено. И они провели этот проект с 2 людьми, которые один политик, другой из военных, которые против за разглашение информации по присутствию инопланетян на Земле, и 2, которые против. Вот этими проектами они сейчас занимаются. И он называется «Война за разглашение присутствия инопланетян на этой Земле».
So what I am trying to present to you now is the understanding that all of our information is accessible worldwide to anyone. We are not holding any secrets.
Courtney говорит, что эта информация доступна всем, у них нет никаких секретов. Любой может эту информацию посмотреть и сделать соответствующие выводы.
All right, now I'm going to go to another website called Instagram.
Сейчас он пойдет на страничку, которая называется Instagram.
Instagram is available worldwide, and it is really great for showing videos that are available to see on your phone. So for people who are just interested in seeing what these UFOs look like, and they're not yet willing or able to go to our websites to see the full stuff, sometimes they say, well, go to Instagram. My Instagram page is what we're using, and that's called Courtney Brown Farsight, all one word. Courtney Brown, like the color, Brown, Farsight, Farsight. That page on Instagram.
Он показывает страничку, которая называется Courtney Brown Farsight. И здесь люди, которые пользуются телефоном, могут найти видео, посвященные НЛО и присутствию внеземных цивилизаций и инопланетных кораблей.
So
Yes.
let me show you some videos so that you can see for yourself. Now
Сейчас он хочет
I'm going to start with some videos that were taken right over my house. And I'm telling you that if you do the same thing over your capital cities in Europe or Asia, you will find the same you will see the same thing. But you have to have a properly configured camera that shoots in infrared and at 120 frames a second. And you have to follow the instructions that we give.
Courtney говорит, что над каждой столицей, в любой точке этой планеты находится НЛО. Также они могут быть над Тбилиси. Вот сейчас он хочет поделиться записью этих кораблей над его городом. Он в Атланте, над Атлантой. Но для этого надо иметь специальную камеру, инфракрасную камеру, специально настроенную, чтобы можно было снимать эти объекты.
Now, the reason that these videos that I'm going to show you now are important is before we were just doing remote viewing, and people had to believe that remote viewing works before they could even believe that extraterrestrials could work or real. So now we're showing people how to take their own video recordings of the UFO, of the aliens, so that they can have proof that the aliens are real. Now, okay, you can do that first.
Хорошо, он говорит, что они обучают людей, как пользоваться камерой, чтобы они увидели, что над их городами есть космические корабли и поняли, что инопланетяне здесь.
Now, there is a type of bug called a cockroach.
Есть
Таракан.
тип, да, тараканы, есть тараканы.
Now, there are debunkers, people who debunk UFO evidence. They are like cockroaches. They come out. They come out whenever you show them any picture or video of a UFO. They, like cockroaches, they will appear. You can't get rid of them. The only way to circumvent the debunkers, who are like cockroaches, is to get your own evidence with your own camera. That's why we're telling people how to do it themselves. Because any picture or video that is shown by anyone, the debunkers will come out and say, that's a glitch. It's Photoshop. It's CGI. It's a smudge. They will disregard it and they will discredit you. But if you're taking your own videos, you know that it's real. That's why we're not trying to convince you by showing you our best videos. We're trying to convince you to get your own camera and to make your own videos. And you can duplicate or even get better than what we have.
Он говорит, что эти тараканы, он называет тараканами тех, кто подвергает сомнению существования внеземных цивилизаций НЛО, и что он говорит, что любую видеозапись или фотографию они могут сказать, что это Photoshop или это подделка, и чтобы этого не было, его организация Farsight хочет научить людей, чтобы они сами фотографировали и снимали на видео неопознанные летающие объекты, чтобы никто не мог подвергнуть их сомнению.
So here are some examples that I'm going to show you now. This is an example of what was taken right over my own house in Atlanta.
Courtney пока сейчас хочет показать пример наблюдения летательного аппарата прямо над его домом.
Notice that the jet airplane coming from Atlanta Hartsfield Airport looks stationary. That's because the UFO, which you're seeing, it looks like a cigar, that's flying at 20,000 miles an hour or 32,000 kilometers per hour. And the reason we have to shoot it at a high frame rate is you cannot see it if you shoot it at a normal frame rate.
Он снимает НЛО, сигарообразный объект замедленной съемкой, потому что он двигается со скоростью 32 тысячи километров в час, и любая другая камера снять его не может.
Now, this
Вот.
was taken the very first time we turned our video cameras on using the instructions that we were given by our flight traffic control person who told us how to do this. We bought the cameras, we had them configured for infrared. We were shooting at a high frame rate, 120 frames per second. We turned them on, and in the first 10 minutes, we had over 50 UFOs recorded over my own house, and this is one of them. This is actually the same UFO. It was zigzagging over our house, my house. So it was going one way, then back and forth. It kept going across the sky. And I saw nothing when I was taking the video, nothing. It wasn't until we put the video footage into the computer, slowed it down, that we were able to see it.
Этот объект был снят прямо над домом Courtney в Атланте, но там в небе ничего не было. Он снял ее на камеру, а потом через компьютер они замедлили съемку, чтобы и увидели объект. Он двигался зигзагообразной формой. Он двигался зигзагами.
Let me show you another.
Сейчас другой.
This is what we call a tumbling UFO. This UFO is actually two separate discs that are together, and they tumble over and over and over themselves. It's not one, it's two. And I do not understand the tech that's involved, but you can see them separating. This was shot at a very high frame rate so that you can see them maneuvering like this.
Dancing.
Вы видите два объекта, один на другом, и в будущем они разделились.
And again, this was shot in infrared.
Он был снят в инфракрасной камерой.
You cannot see it in visible light.
И его невозможно видеть при нормальном освещении.
Here's another one. This is a rotating UFO. It looks like it has something in the front of it, but then as you see, the thing that's in the front of it goes to the tail. So it's not in the front or the back. It's actually something that's rotating, and you can actually see that.
Вращающийся объект, вращающийся вокруг своей оси объект. Carry on. Interesting. Okay.
And again, that was 120 frames per second. And here's another one. Here's another. Now this is interesting. Notice that the lines, there are also UFOs that you will see crossing the screen, but you're going to see lines that look like radiation lines. This is actually a cloaking field that surrounds a extremely large UFO, very large, like the size of that was right over my own house. So those lines, they're not spider webs, they're actual parts of a cloaking field. We were able to discover what they actually were because of the remote viewing. None of these lines are visible in visible light.
And how big was the object?
It was probably the size of the town that I live in. It was huge, or maybe that's too big. Maybe at least a few kilometers to either direction.
Он говорит, что он наблюдал объект длиной в несколько километров над его домом, но поскольку он был защищен невидимым полем, его было невозможно увидеть, только часть. Его подтверждение этого объекта пришло через дальневидение.
Now, when I say it was at large, I'm talking about the cloaking field. The actual UFO inside the cloaking field was smaller, maybe the size of a very large building, like a skyscraper.
Он говорит, что поле, которое делало его невидимым, было очень большое, а сам объект мог быть высотой в небоскреб.
Yes.
Okay, here's another one. You will find this very interesting. This was taken on May 2nd over the Pensacola Naval Air Station. Now it's positioned vertically, because that's the way Instagram works. But you'll see it come in off of the top, and then it goes across the screen, and then it goes in between the trees. And at that point, it's shooting directly over the Pensacola Naval Air Base. So this was traveling at around 32,000 kilometers per hour. And this is footage that is very much slowed down, but you can see it clear as day.
Courtney говорит об объекте, который вылетел с базы военно-морского флота в Пенсаколе. И оно...
Now you can see better versions of it on your phone, or if you go to your browser and go to Instagram, log in on Instagram on your browser, you can go to Courtney Brown Farsight and see big versions of the same thing.
Да, вы можете увидеть это в Инстаграме, в Инстаграме, которую он
указал.
Ссылку, которую он говорил вначале.
Okay. Now here's another one. These are on the top are 4 Blue Angels jets. And in the middle, below that, is a UFO. Now you'll see it repeat, but the UFO is traveling around 15,000 miles an hour, about 18,000 kilometers per hour. You see it's passing the jets. The jets look almost stationary because the jets are passing trees. And you can see that they're almost stationary because I'm following in the camera, I'm following the UFO. And so the UFO is actually traveling much faster than the jets. Does everyone see the UFO? It's in the center.
Вы видите НЛО, это истребители, называются голубые ангелы, и видите НЛО. Is it in over Atlanta?
This is over Pensacola, Florida. Over the Pensacola, it's over the Pensacola Naval Air Base.
Это над Пенсаколой, база ВМС в Пенсаколе в штате Флорида. И этот объект пролетал рядом с истребителями, которые называются «Голубые ангелы».
Now, if you want to see, for some reason, the UFOs really, really like air shows. So I'm not exactly sure why, but they love air shows. So if you look at this is, you see all those white globes, those white orbs?
И они НЛО, космические корабли, или корабли пришельцев очень любят авиашоу, авиасалоны. И часто там, часто залетают.
Now, these white orbs were not visible at all before the air show. As soon as the air show started, literally hundreds of them descended onto the Pensacola Naval Air Station. Hundreds of them. And this clip is maybe 10 seconds long, but I slowed it down so that you could see them.
Он говорит, что как только началось авиашоу над Пенсаколой, тут же появились белые шарообразные объекты, и он снял их на камеру и с замедленной съемкой. Их сотни были на авиашоу.
We did a project where we actually investigated the military leadership of the base to see if they knew about all the UFOs that were over their own head when the Blue Angels air show was going on. And they had an idea that stuff happens, but they were not fully aware of the quantity of UFOs that were over their own airbase. They were essentially ignorant of what was happening over their own heads during the show.
Courtney говорит, что они сделали проект дальневидения, чтобы узнать, знали об этом работающие на базе военные, на что узнали о том, что они совершенно были невежественны в том, что происходит над их головами. Константин asked a question. What can you tell about these extraterrestrials? Are they from the future, or are they those who kind of
Dimension.
who
Okay.
have come from other dimensions, other time frames, timelines, and those who take care of this planet, guardians?
I will answer that in a second. Let me show you just the last one I'm going to show you now, because this one was taken, as you see, it's very quick. This one was taken over Kenya, East Africa. I was testing the idea whether UFOs are visible all over the planet. It turns out that after 5 days of shooting, I got only one UFO, and this is it. So they are not everywhere. You'll find them over major capitals, like I'm sure you can find them over the capital in Georgia and Russia, over Moscow. You can find them over all the major European capitals, I'm sure. Over Washington, D.C., it's like a traffic jam up there. They're all over the place. Over Atlanta, they're over every place. I'm sure they're over Chicago, Los Angeles. But over Kenya, even over Nairobi, I found this is the only one after shooting 5 days. This is the only one I got. So they are not equally distributed over the whole planet.
Courtney говорит, что они не равно распространены по планете. Их можно найти над большими городами и столицами, такими как Тбилиси, Грузия, над большими европейскими городами, Москвой. Их очень много над столицей Америки, Вашингтоном, округ Колумбия, над Атлантой. А вот, например, в Кении, в Найроби он нашел только снял только один объект.
Okay, now I will answer your question, but I will give you the blunt truth, but you may not believe it. In order to understand where all this is coming from, you have to look at the actual projects that are available on farsightprime.com to understand why I come to these conclusions. I am absolutely certain that I am correct, what I'm going to tell you, but you may not believe it until you actually see all the projects.
Он сейчас ответит на вопрос, но в принципе он говорит, что вы не поверите, что он там узнал. Если вы хотите больше информации узнать, то вы должны пойти на его страничку Farsight.org.
So what I've told you so far is basic background of our remote viewing work and where you can find it. And I've told you how we take video recordings on demand of these UFOs that are all trying to hide themselves. That's what I've done so far. Now I'm going to summarize the conclusions that we have based on decades of work with these extraterrestrials.
Он сейчас хотел показать, как они наблюдают и записывают инопланетные корабли над городами, а сейчас он хочет поделиться информацией десятилетий их опыта, как они все это делают и откуда они родом.
Now, there are differences of opinion. For example, Chaim Ashed, H-A-I-M, second, E-S-C-H-E-D. No, E-S-H-E-D. There might be a C in there. Chaim Ashed, he is the former director of the Israeli Space Directorate for 30 years. He's also a retired general, and he's currently a professor. Chaim Ashed. Let me stop with that. You translate that first.
Хаим Ашад, это он занимает, what's his rank?
General.
Chaim Ashed, I will give you a, I will get it for you in a second. Chaim, H-A-I-M, Ashed, E-S-H-E-D.
Хаим Ашад, да.
Okay, Chaim, H-A-I-M, E-S-H-E-D, 2 words. He is the former head of the Israeli Space Director. That's like, in the United States, that would be equivalent to being the head of NASA.
Он занимается космическими силами Израиля, как эквивалент начальника НАСА в Америке.
Yes.
He was the head of the Israeli Space Directorate for 30 years and a very well-respected general.
Он был уважаемым генералом израильских космических сил.
Now, he gave a talk that he thought was going to be private. He did it in Hebrew for an Israeli publication. But it turned out that many people know Hebrew, and it was immediately translated and went all over the world. He has let me stop there. You translate that first.
Хорошо, он сделал заявление на иврите, но заявление было частным образом сделано на иврите, но многие знали иврит, и поэтому это стало общедоступным.
He has stated publicly in this interview that the extraterrestrials are real. They have written agreements that they have been signed by the United States government and the extraterrestrials, as well as some other governments. But he specifically mentioned the United States government and some other the extraterrestrials to operate here to do what they call experiments in exchange for technological assistance with extraterrestrial spacecraft that they're trying to reverse engineer and understand.
Он сделал заявление, что подписан договор между, прежде всего, правительством Соединенных Штатов и правительством Израиля, а также некоторых других стран об обмене технологий неземных цивилизаций с людьми этой планеты, взамен на то, что они будут делать, экспериментировать здесь, и им будет дан карт-бланш. То есть они могут делать все, что захотят. Такие договоры были подписаны с правительством Соединенных Штатов и других стран на такой обмен. Технология, и им дается право экспериментировать здесь, на этой планете. Со многими неземными.
He has also said that there is an actual underground base on Mars where there are both humans and extraterrestrials working together.
Он также сказал, что существует база на Марсе, где работают инопланетяне вместе с землянами. Подземная база на Марсе. Подмарсная.
So the information that you asked for is about the extraterrestrials. Chaim Ashed comes out on the side of thinking that the extraterrestrials are not so bad. We come out, we've done much more research on everything they're doing. So this is the answer to your question of who they are and what they're doing. Translate that. I will give it to you right now, as soon as you translate that much.
Хорошо. Он скажет, что он сейчас ответит на твой вопрос, Костя, Константин, насчет кто они, что они делают и откуда они. Вот ответ. Go ahead.
The extraterrestrials that have agreements with the United States government, and for all I know, maybe the Russian government as well, I don't know, but the extraterrestrials are not good. The planet is being occupied by a very authoritarian, fascist, negative group of extraterrestrials that operate this planet as a prison, literally as a prison. You don't get out once you're here. The whole experience I can explain to you, and I can show you the different projects that back that up. But let me stop there and I'll explain the other side.
Oh, okay. Before, are those among these negative ones? Are there reptilian types?
Yes, the reptilians are the top of the food chain. They are at the very top. They control all the other ones down below. They very rarely show themselves. You only see the other ones that are slaves of the reptilians. For example, the Greys, the ones that you see and you hear about in the abduction literature, they are all slaves of the reptilians that control the whole thing.
Он говорит, что те, кто контролирует эту планету, в основном негативные. На вершине находятся рептилоиды, их рабы серые, которые занимаются, те, кто воруют людей. И, в принципе, эта планета является планетой-тюрьмой, и которая контролируется этими негативными инопланетянами. Go ahead.
In this planet, the negative ETs dominate and they control everything. They control all of the major political leaders, all of the major military leaders. The military is split. There are very good people in the military. I don't know what the actual percentages are, but in the United States, you can approximate maybe half of the military wants disclosure. The other half of the military is in favor of working with the reptilians and so on to continue the agreements that we have. They're fighting behind the scenes, behind closed doors, and that's the problem with disclosure. The reptilians have a lot of the leadership in their pockets.
Рептилоиды контролируют в основном армию Соединенных Штатов и политических лидеров. Но в армии есть разделение. Половина тех, кто служит, хотят разглашения, другая половина хочет, чтобы все оставалось как есть.
The reptilians, through their slaves, also control all of the information that you're getting through the channeling literature. So people who do channeling, where they telepathically communicate with extraterrestrials, they are literally doing exactly that. But the information they are getting is designed to pacify the planet and to divert people from knowing what's really happening.
Он говорит, что люди, которые получают информацию через channeling и телепатически, эта информация проходит фильтрацию у рептилоидов, и поэтому они хотят успокоить людей, чтобы они не знали, что реально происходит на этой планете.
There is another large group of extraterrestrials. There's no such thing as one group or another group. There's many, many groups, but they're divided approximately into two sides. There's another large group of extraterrestrials who we at Farsight actually work with, and we call them the good guys. They believe fanatically in free will, that people must be able to choose their own. In the solar system, the free will ETs are dominant. The free will ETs have more resources and more military power, everything in the solar system. But on the planet Earth, the negative ETs or the authoritarian ETs are the ones that dominate.
В Солнечной системе есть хорошие инопланетяне, говорят, хорошие парни, как говорит Courtney, но, к сожалению, на этой планете доминируют негативные инопланетяне.
Actually, we stay away from all current political situations at all, completely. The closest thing that we've ever done that goes into near-term political stuff is the aftermath of the 2024 US presidential election, which we have seen is going to be like a disaster, like terrible. But we stay away from any current news stuff. And in part, that's because we don't want to ruffle the feathers of the intelligence services that don't want us to do things like that. So for current political things, we don't do that. We are allowed to do things regarding to the extraterrestrials. We're allowed to do historical stuff, going back and back, but real current stuff, we stay away from.
Не занимаются событиями, которые сейчас происходят, политическими событиями. Они пытаются с этим не связываться. Они связаны только с инопланетянами, группами инопланетян и все. And among the good guys, what are these extraterrestrials from Andromeda, Pleiades, Sirius? What are the star systems? And are
they are from other star systems within this galaxy. The basic idea is that this galaxy over the last 1,000,000 years has experienced a holocaust of greater amazing proportions than anything that you've ever experienced on Earth. The Holocaust in World War II, where 20 million people were killed, including about 10 million or 12 million Slavic people in Europe, in Eastern Europe, Russia, Poland. That was small compared to what happened in the galaxy. The galaxy has been a scene of a major set of fighting. It's very much like the movies Star Wars. In fact, the Star Wars movies we did an investigation of the Star Wars movies and found that they were, in fact, connected to, in their own way, the type of conflict that actually did happen in the galaxy. What you're seeing in our solar system now between the good guys and the bad guys is what's left over of that Holocaust. The basic fighting is over. It's not the way it was when it was in its worst case, but Earth is a prison that's left over from that Holocaust.
Корти говорит, что «Звездные войны», фильмы «Звездные войны» основаны на войне между цивилизациями в галактике Млечный Путь. И она продолжалась и продолжается. Она началась 1 000 000 лет назад и до сих пор продолжается. И Земля является планетой тюрьмой, которая осталась после этой войны, и она до сих пор продолжается. Go ahead.
The Earth is maintained as a prison through a variety of different means. One method that's one very important component of the prison is it makes it almost impossible for anyone to get out of the prison. Meaning, there is something that happens after you die that we call the death traps. I'll explain it after you translate.
И эта планета является планетой тюрьмой, потому что когда душа покидает телесную оболочку, она попадает в западню, о которой который сейчас Courtney расскажет. Go ahead.
So the death traps work like this. We do not use the word soul or spirit because it comes with too much religious baggage. We call everybody an isbi. An isbi is someone who is for the purpose of being, no other reason. It is impossible to kill an isbi. So all of you listening to this video, it is impossible for you to die. Your body can be killed, but you cannot be killed. The isbi cannot die. However, you can trap it, you can confuse it, you can enslave it, you can do all types of bad things with it, but you cannot kill it. I'll explain more after you translate.
Он называет, он не хочет использовать выражение души. Это как аз есть, я есть, существо я есть. Я есть вечное, его нельзя убить. Телесную оболочку можно уничтожить, но это существо, которое называется аз есть, я есть, уничтожить нельзя. Его можно обдурить и заставить, напугать и заставить вернуться на эту планету, как он сейчас объяснит. Go ahead.
What happens when you die is after your body dies, you pop out of it and you see the light. You've all heard about that, seeing the light after you die. Everywhere in every culture, you hear about seeing the light. That light is part of a system that attracts the Isbi. Isbis are attracted to artistic, aesthetic things. They're attracted to the light. And as you get closer to the light, it becomes like a sticky fly trap. The more you struggle against it, the more you get caught up in it and cannot get out. When you get pulled in all the way, you are zapped with an electricity bolt that's way more voltage than lightning. It's really high and it rattles you. It completely stuns you. You lose your memory of who you are, and you also lose your capability, your natural capability to do telepathy and remote viewing. Those are normal things for any normal Isbi. But once you're zapped in the death traps, you lose that. You become rattled. I'll pause for you to translate that much.
Поскольку аз есть, я есть живое существо вечное, оно любит все красивое, оно движется к свету, который вы слышали, наверное, когда о котором говорит об опыте выхода из телесной оболочки. Вы двигаетесь к этому свету, у вас ударяют сильной молнией, сильнейшим током, и вы как сущность, как живое существо лишаетесь возможности общаться телепатически и заниматься дальновидением. Это совершенно естественно для каждого живого существа аз есть везде. Но вас этой возможности лишают. Go ahead.
All right. So after the electroshock treatment, and all of this is done by AI. You don't have actual people doing it. It's all done by computers, all done by AI, artificial intelligence. After that, you are introduced to somebody that comes out, it's actually AI, and says, we have discussed your case in the Council of Elders. We have a Council of Elders, and it all feels really good to the Isbi. And we have thought that what you need to do is you need to go back and work out a few things. Remember the arguments you had with your grandmother and your mother and father, and your sister still needs you, and your son or your daughter, and so on. They bring up these things so that they say that there's a few more things you need to work on with your personality and so on. And we think you should go back, but it's your choice. Inevitably, the Isbi says, you're right, I need to go back. And they get born again into another body. And that's the way the recycling system works. You're caught, you're zapped, then you're told a lot of garbage that's not true, and you go back into the system.
Он говорит, что после того, как вас ударили током, после шоковой терапии вас встречает совет старейшин и начинает обсуждать, что вы делали на земле. Вот вы там обидели вашего папу, вашу маму, вы плохо относились к сестре, надо это исправить, и поэтому вы, конечно, выбирайте, ну и душа, и, конечно, существо вечное, вечной сущность выбирает вернуться на эту планету, и вот как эта система тюрьмы работает. И вы опять попадаете, вы опять перевоплощаетесь в другую телесную оболочку на этой планете. Вот как работает тюрьма.
So in authoritarian governments and authoritarian regimes, they don't let people leave, because if they left, they wouldn't come back and they wouldn't have a way to keep their population. For example, in the early days of the Soviet Union, it was not possible for people to leave. That's how Rudolf Nureyev, the ballet dancer, and Mikhail Baryshnikov, they had to escape in order to get to the West. In China, during the period of Mao Zedong, it was not possible for people to leave. Well, the authoritarian ETs run it like that, but even worse. And so they don't want anybody to leave, because death, before the death traps, death used to be a means of transportation. Once you die, you could go and you could leave. So the death traps were necessary to maintain a population. Otherwise, everybody would get out.
Он говорит, что авторитарные инопланетяне, похожие на режимы Мао Цзэдуна и Советского Союза, когда невозможно было уехать из страны, и на примере Нуриева и Барышникова, которые сбежали и остались на Западе, и то же самое происходило в Китае. Это то же самое или еще хуже происходит после того, как сущность покидает телесную оболочку. А дальше было, что когда наступает, тело отмирает, сущность могла идти, куда она захочет, куда угодно. Сейчас это невозможно сделать, потому что существуют эти посмертные западни.
Similarly, if you think along these lines, you will say, well, why don't the good ETs, if they're militarily more powerful in this solar system, why do they not just invade the Earth and kick out the bad ETs? Let's translate that first.
Вы можете задать себе вопрос, почему хорошие парни, хорошие инопланетяне не прилетят сюда и не выгонят плохих инопланетян с этой планеты?
Well, the good ETs have a fanatical adherence to free will. You have to really appreciate that. It's frustrating for me, even when dealing with them so much, but they really do believe in free will, no exceptions. So you have to ask yourself, let me translate that first, and then I'll tell you.
Они хорошие инопланетяне, очень сильно, до фанатизма уважают свободу выбора любой сущности. И поэтому они не могут это сделать. Сейчас Courtney объяснит дальше.
So now I will answer why the good ETs do not simply invade and kick out the bad ETs. What would happen if somebody in the United States said, we don't think the people of Russia are getting the truth about what's going on in the world. We need to free them. What would happen if someone in the United States and Europe said, we don't think the people of China are getting the truth. Their internet is controlled. We need to free them. And what would happen if American or NATO military forces showed up over the skies of Russia or over the skies of China? What would happen is the people of Russia and the people of China would all look up and say, we're being invaded. This is terrible. And they would demand that their governments protect them from the invaders. So if the good ETs decided, we think the bad ETs are controlling the information and it's not right, we need to kick them out. And if they invaded Earth, the entire human population on Earth would look up and they'd say, my gosh, we're being invaded, protect us. And then the good ETs would not only have to conquer the bad ETs, they'd have to completely conquer the entire human population on Earth and then send everybody out to re-education camps. It would not work. So it is impossible for the good ETs to simply invade.
Это невозможно сделать, потому что если, например, над небом России или Грузии появились бы самолеты НАТО или других стран, это было бы, было как расценено как вторжение, и люди бы попросили правительство защитить их. Если бы хорошие инопланетяне прилетели сюда, и это было бы как вторжение. И люди бы просили правительство защитить их от их вторжения, и тогда им пришлось открывать школы по переобучению или лагеря по переобучению. Это просто невозможно.
The only thing that can work to free the populations of the Earth is a revolution from below. Disclosure. Once people find out what has actually been going on, these experiments that Haim Ashed was talking about, the experiments that have been allowed by the United States government with written agreements in exchange for technological assistance, they went way beyond anything that was in the written agreements. The experiments are not experiments. That's a nice word to cover up what is really happening. What's really happening is the largest human trafficking operation on the planet Earth. Human trafficking is what goes on in the millions and millions and millions. The three biggest money sources, money flows on the planet Earth are first, human trafficking. That's number one. Second, drugs, drug sales. Third, weapon sales. Those three things. And no one's doing the human trafficking more than the bad ETs. That's the great resource. That's why the bad ETs want the Earth, because of the capability of having all of these people, all of these ISBs, for a whole bunch of reasons.
Они занимаются пересылкой людей.
Start with the idea of disclosure. It's the only way to get a revolution from below.
Самое главное, это чтобы была революция изнутри. А для этого нужно для этого нужно полное рассекречивание всей информации о том, что делают инопланетяне здесь. Потому что они воруют людей и пересылают их в другие. Идет торговля людьми. Люди для них являются рабами. То есть сущности, которые в телесных оболочках людей являются рабами. Это один из самых важных компонентов прибыли для инопланетян. Инопланетяне контролируют работорговлю людьми, наркотики и продажу оружия. Это все находится под их контролем. И они не хотят терять этот контроль. Единственная вещь, которая может их остановить, это разглашение информации об их деятельности, то есть рассекречивание всей этой информации.
So you then want to ask, why do the bad ETs want Earth in the first place? It's because of the large ISB population. It's not just the human biology. In addition to, there are almost 8 billion people, physical people on the planet Earth. But there are many, many billions more than that in the prison system that are not currently inside bodies. Whoever controls the planet Earth controls all of those ISBs. Those ISBs are a huge resource that can be used for military operations as mercenaries, prostitutes, child trafficking, everything that you can possibly imagine, slaves of all types. It's a population that can be used at will for any purpose for expansion. What we now, okay, let me stop there while you translate.
Негативные инопланетяне используют не только физических людей, которые находятся физически на Земле, их около 8 миллиардов, а также людей, которые здесь физически не находятся. Это огромный ресурс. Они занимаются работорговлей детей, проституцией и так далее в системе галактики. И они, эта планета является огромным ресурсом для их темной деятельности.
Хорошо. So, if you have an ISB population like what we have here on this planet, this is a resource that can be used for a galactic-wide expansion that dwarfs the Holocaust that happened previously in the galaxy. If you have, say, 30 billion ISBs that you can use at will, that's a force that would be used to swamp the rest of the galaxy. Let me pause while you say that.
Он говорит, что эта планета является хорошим ресурсом для сущностей. И они используются для войны в галактике. Здесь около 30 миллиардов сущностей, которые находятся в телесной оболочке и вне нее. И это огромный ресурс для продолжения войны в галактике.
So look at it this way. If you are going to have a galactic expansion, you're going to need people to do that. You're going to need ISBs. ISBs cannot die. So if you use them for mercenary forces, every time they get killed, you just take the ISB and put it back into another body and send it back out. You have a constant military force that if it's a slave mercenary force, it won't ever stop. You can just keep on expanding and expanding. So the rest of the galaxy right now is terrified that that is going to happen, which is why the free will ETs are in the solar system in large numbers. They are trying to help create a revolution from below to stop this future Holocaust from happening.
Он говорит, что поскольку сущности могут быть, идет экспансия галактики, и эти сущности, они заставляют их перевоплотиться в другие тела и посылают их воевать. И это продолжается, катастрофа военная продолжается в галактике. Единственное, и поэтому хорошие шляпы, белые шляпы инопланетяне находятся в Солнечной системе, чтобы это предотвратить, чтобы не было еще большей войны.
And if you say it can't happen, look at what happened here. Look at what happened during Stalin's time. Look at what happened during Hitler's time. Look at what happened during Mao Zedong's time. And look at what happened in the United States during the slavery time when we had millions and millions and millions of people thrown into complete total slavery. If you can say it won't happen, it's crazy. It happens on Earth. Imagine a technologically sophisticated power with the capability of using 30 some odd billion ISBs for a galactic expansion. It has happened on Earth. Hitler expanded. He wanted to go and invade everybody. Napoleon, he invaded Russia. He wanted to invade everything. The point is, that happens. It really happens. And that's what the rest of the galaxy is fearing. If this does not occur, if we do not get a revolution from below and disclosure, the fear is that the rest of the galaxy may have to migrate out of the galaxy. You may have the biggest refugee problem in many, many galaxies where people have to leave the whole galaxy to escape. It's a real serious problem. I'll stop and finish it when you translate that first.
В том, что он сравнивает это со сталинскими временами, временами Гитлера. Они все хотели экспансию, землю и так далее, распространить свое влияние. То же самое происходит не только на Земле, а во всей галактике. Если это не остановить, то цивилизациям этой галактики, они станут беженцами, им придется убегать в другие галактики. Это будет огромная проблема для мироздания.
So what we are doing now here at Farsight is we are actually collaboratively working directly with the good ETs. We kept this secret for many, many, many years. But as of this year, we decided to be open about it. We actively and openly work with the good ETs. We have active, open contact with the good ETs, and we are part of a program that's designed to help create a revolution from below by getting information about what's really going on Earth to the people. Let me pause while you translate that.
Вот что они в Farsight, они работают с хорошими инопланетянами, и они хотят создать революцию изнутри, через образование, через распространение информации о том, что реально происходит на этой планете.
We have been doing our part by essentially rewriting the entire history of humanity. And you can see all of these projects that we've done. We have done projects that tell what really happened with Zeus. Zeus was not a god, he was a person like you and me. But he didn't fly around in chariots, he flew around in spaceships. And he was a serial rapist. That's all he was. He was a prison warden. He ran the prison. He was in charge of the prison at his time. And he ran around with his spaceship and he had sex. He raped underage girls constantly. He was a serial rapist. That's all he was, a prison warden who used the planet Earth as his harem. Same thing with Ra. Same thing with so many of the ancient, and we have projects on each one of these people. We have all of the major archaeological problems, all the major archaeological phenomena that occurred. The religious, we've gone into religious stuff. But actually, let me pause while you translate that first.
Он говорит, что у него есть у него в его организации Farsight есть проекты по истории, которые перепишут всю историю. Например, он говорит, что Зевс был не богом, а таким же человеком, как и мы. Он был насильником, насиловал маленьких девочек и летал на космическом корабле. Он также был надзирателем этой планеты тюрьмы. То же самое он говорит о боге Ра.
The good ETs, the free will ETs, have been trying to change the way the population Earth thinks for a long time. They've been primarily doing this by seeding information into the dreams of scriptwriters and authors that work in Hollywood, for example. So a scriptwriter will go to sleep and have a dream and wake up in the morning and have a great idea for a new TV show or a new episode or something like that. And the person will think that she or he thought of it all themselves. Now, the free will ETs will not force the person to do anything with it. The person then, of their own free will, has to decide to make a show about that. They like it. This is how the Star Wars movies came about. This is how Star Trek came about. This is how the Matrix movies came about. These are all ideas that are connected to the reality you have on Earth and in the galaxy. And these are ideas that are meant to get people used to the reality that actually is happening.
Он говорит, что все хорошие инопланетяне сеют информацию тем, кто пишет сценарии для таких фильмов, как «Звездные войны» или «Star Trek» или «Матрица». Это все было... И люди считают, что это их идеи, хотя это им просто подсказали, и они избрали сделать из этого сценарий, а потом и фильм. Так что все это делается для того, чтобы показать, что реально происходит на этой планете.
So you could say that the good free will ETs have won the hearts and minds of the masses, but the bad authoritarian ETs have the political and many of the military leaders in their pocket, and especially the media, the military leaders, and the political leaders. Not all of the military leaders, they're split, but the bad ETs have the elite in their pocket, whereas the good ETs have won the hearts and minds of the masses.
Негативные инопланетяне контролируют политических лидеров, средства массовой информации, а также часть военных, хотя она разделена. Часть работает на хороших, часть на темных. Но они, хорошие инопланетяне, завоевывают сердца и сознание людей через фильмы, такие как «Звездные войны», и «Матрица» и так далее. Они завоевывают их сердца и сознание через эту информацию.
Now, you asked me a question earlier about Ukraine, and I said, we don't do anything with contemporary politics. But I will say this much. One of the things that the bad ETs do is constantly agitate and create situations where humans fight among themselves. As long as humans are, and you'll see, that's one of the reasons we have war after war after war, these endless wars. One of the ways to control the population is to have them constantly infighting. And so the bad ETs have a way of using what we call neural engagement to get the leadership to start fighting among themselves, and they start invading and fighting and fighting and invading and invading. And so as long as you have people fighting among themselves, then nobody's turning around and looking at what the ETs are doing because they're too occupied with this other stuff. So I won't say any comments about Ukraine, but in general, all this nonstop warfare, Vietnam War, World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, Korean War, it goes on and on and on. The Iraq wars, it's all a way to distract humans so that nobody will look at what the ETs are doing.
Вкратце, Courtney говорит, что все войны, включая войну на Украине, это все, чтобы отвлечь людей от того, что реально происходит на этой планете, от присутствия негативных инопланетян.
Okay, now I've been going for about 2 hours, so I think I'd like to pause for a while and just answer some questions before we wrap up.
Хорошо. Ираклий, какие у вас есть вопросы?
Ну, вопросы касаются того, что вот это дальневидение, что он называет как оно происходит? Оно происходит в спящем состоянии, в отключенном, в астрале. Вот что он называет дальневидением точно?
Courtney Irakli asks, how can you define remote viewing? Is it happening astrally while sleeping, or how is it done?
It's done in the normal waking state. That's not a dream state. It's not an altered state of consciousness. Take a look at this pen. You see this pen? You're looking at it through your eyes. So it's a bright image that's coming through your ocular eyes, going to the brain. Now I'm going to take the pen away. Remember the pen that you just saw and bring it into your mind so you see it. You still see the pen, but notice it's a little translucent. You can see through it. It's not as bright. So the remembered image is dimmer, foggier than the visual image that's coming through the eyes. The remote viewing images are dimmer, foggier than the remembered images. So it's the eye image, the remembered images, and then the remote viewer images, the remote viewing images. The remote viewers go through extensive training to be able to focus on those remote viewing images. That's why it takes them a year to get good enough before they can do any projects at Farsight. They have to be able to lock onto those images and to ignore the remembered images and to ignore the physical stuff. They're doing it with their eyes open. And they've got to be able to do it even with cameras on and lights and the studio on. That takes training to be able to do that. Farsight has the absolute best on the planet Earth that do that. And we are the only venue that you can see the actual results for. There are no other venues that you can see anybody doing this stuff. Let me pause for a second while you translate that much.
Ирак, он говорит, что они делают все это в нормальном состоянии, не во сне, и что они запоминают, и чтобы пройти, чтобы стать дальновидцем в Farsight, надо год учиться, чтобы сфокусироваться на образ и иметь возможность получать точную информацию. И они говорят, что это единственное и самое лучшее вид дальновидения, он считает, на планете. Еще вопросы? Thank you.
Okay. So remote viewing, with the remote viewing, the way we do it is more advanced by a lot than the stuff that was released by the US military in the 1980s and 90s with regard to their original program. You can assume that the US military has a much bigger, better remote viewing program going on now. And you can assume that they do lots of stuff because the extraterrestrials themselves, they use stuff that we would call remote viewing and telepathy as a normal means of communication. The extraterrestrials have not been zapped by the death traps. So for them, telepathy is normal. It's how they talk to each other. But with humans that have been processed by the death traps, we have to go through training to rebuild those processes.
Инопланетяне переговариваются друг с другом телепатически и могут заниматься дальновидением и все что угодно, потому что они не проходили через смертельные, через западни, когда сущность покидает телесную оболочку. У них этого никогда не было. И они не получали электрический шок. И эти возможности, для них естественны точно так же, как и для нас. Но нам надо переучиваться, то есть учиться, чтобы возобновить возможность общаться телепатически и заниматься дальновидением.
With regard to the United States, you can rest assured that the US military is not of one mind. I don't know the actual percentages, but you can assume that half of the military is in favor of disclosure and half of the military is opposed. Now, I'm not saying that's exact, those numbers, but Farsight would not exist if somebody wasn't allowing us to do this. The normal process for the remote, for people, groups that are studying extraterrestrials and UFOs and remote viewing, is for the agencies to disrupt those groups, to disband them. They have many ways to do this, but a common way is to have a volunteer join the group and offer all types of enthusiasm and services and help. And after a few months, they start causing problems and fights, and then people get discouraged and they start leaving. So that's the normal process, but nobody interferes with Farsight. So you can assume that there is a good hefty portion of the US military that is fighting for disclosure and to work with the good ETs. And then there's another group that has long-standing contact with what we call the bad ETs. The only way this can be resolved is if the public finds out about what's really been going on, and then there's a mass uprising where the people then ask and demand from their leaders that they want to be aligned with the good ETs. That's the only way you can get a massive change. And at that point, the good ETs can come in, kick out the bad ETs, and have this happen. But you cannot have it without the revolution from below.
Кортни говорит, что военные в Соединенных Штатах разделены на две группы. Одни служат черным, другие плохим парням, другие хорошим белым шляпам еще можно. И если бы не те в военных кругах, которые бы не служили белым шляпам, хорошим инопланетянам, Farsight не смог бы существовать. И потому что есть специальные организации, организации по изучению инопланетян, в организации по изучению инопланетян внедряются добровольцы из агентств, которые начинают разрушать эти организации. Люди начинают, создаются конфликты, и эти организации распадаются. Так они уничтожают любые организации, которые занимаются серьезным изучением инопланетян и их присутствием на этой планете. Вот. Цель Farsight, чтобы эта революция, чтобы люди поняли, что реально происходит на этой планете, и только разглашение информации о присутствии инопланетян и войне, которая идет уже миллион лет, даст возможность освободить эту планету от негативного присутствия. Courtney, do you have information that, do you separate the information that you get from the interstellar beings and those of the technological information that comes from the galactic federations? Do you have anything to comment on that?
The information that is available on planet Earth has been totally polluted. So when you say the Galactic Federation, Chaim Ashed, former head of the Israeli Space Directorate, he uses the same words to refer to the groups that have written agreements with the US government. That's the bad ETs. So the words of any type of galactic federation, that's really not clear of who you're talking about, because the bad ETs have spent an enormous amount of energy polluting the information that's available to people on Earth. And a lot of the words that you're using come from the channeled community. The channeling community has been totally corrupted. They are actually very good people, really good people, honest people, and they are really connected to and really having telepathic communications with real extraterrestrials. The trouble is the extraterrestrials are with the bad ETs, and they're feeding all types of junk into the planetary system. So the reality is the best way to proceed is just to assume that everybody is an extraterrestrial out there. Don't worry about the Galactic Federation of Light or anything. It's all been polluted. You don't know. Just assume that everybody is just like you, and that there are basically two sides, and you're not going to know the truth about anything until the disclosure process actually happens and everybody blows up, because all of the information that you're getting, all of it is being polluted by, controlled by the bad ETs, including all of the stuff that you hear about the Galactic Federation of Light. Let me give you an example after you translate this much.
Он говорит, что вся информация, всю информацию, которую получают через телепатические, так называемые channelers, она вся загрязнена. Она проходит через, все идут через негативные инопланетяне, поставляют эту информацию. Она может они ее обличают, называют Галактической Федерацией Света или как угодно, но это те, кто контролирует эту планету. Единственная вещь, которая может спасти эту планету, это полное рассекречивание любой информации о том, что реально происходит. Go on. Courtney, another question is, how do you see the cosmic hierarchy? I mean, hierarchy of the higher beings. Are they real, not fake, council of elders or ascended beings or something like that?
I don't know. In all truth, Yanni's Nile. I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
You don't know.
And we will not find out until after the disclosure process happens.
Он не знает.
All those questions are big questions about what happens out there in the universe and the galaxy in an ultimate realm. And the only thing anyone on planet Earth can say with regard to that is Yanni's Nile. And we're not going to find out. We're not going to find out until afterwards.
Он говорит, что он ничего не знает по этому поводу. Мы можем узнать только, когда все будет полное разглашение. My question, to completely wrap everything up, what do you think about indigo children or the starseeds? That I've read a lot about, and about those beings who are ETs who have incarnated in human beings, also to start the ascension process or the changes, big changes on this planet.
That may be true. It may be possible. It probably is true. But I don't have access to that. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know the extraterrestrials that I interact with physically, but like, for example, I didn't have any influence with what they did with Hollywood, with getting the script writers to write about all these interesting things. I'm not involved in any of the starseed type of stuff, if it exists. I'm just not told about that. I am involved with what I do. We do have physical interactions with the extraterrestrials. I have a long history going back to when I was a kid, dealing with the extraterrestrials. It's all been friendly. It's all been good. I actually have a child, a daughter, who actually works on one of the ships. She's my son's half sister, and I'm very proud of her. She's proud of me. I've interacted with her on the ship, but this is. I mean, I don't know everything, and I don't know the answers to these questions. It's like anything that you see going on in any major program, company, or government, even if there's no secrecy, you're not told anything. You're not told everything.
Need
so-
to know. Need to know. They need